Hello and welcome to the CEO Entrepreneur Magazine's video show. This is your host, Nick Vadia. Our next guest is Bob Wolfberg, the co-founder and president of PLS Financial, a very fast-growing $250 million company. Leading a paradigm shift from financial services focus to true retailing is the underlying cause of growth at PLS Financials. And in this video, you will hear Bob talk about that as the driving force behind his firm's growth over 100% year over year in the last 3 years. You will also hear him explain the single most important attribute behind success of any entrepreneurial venture, according to him. This firm employs over 3,000 people, and no matter what you might think of the financial services firms catering to the less than privileged, their customers feel valued, cared for, and unintimidated when they take their first step inside his over 300 stores. Now here's Bob Wolfberg.
The key to PLS's success is we have a great mission, a wonderful system being executed by a great team. And the key to it is the why. What is the mission? Why does PLS exist? PLS exists because we believe as an organization that our customer base was not being treated correctly, was not being treated respectfully, was not being treated as if they were special when receiving their financial services. And when I say our customer base, I don't mean only our close competition, other check cashers, other short-term lenders. I mean all financial service providers who do a very poor job in providing a special experience to their customers. So PLS has come along and said, our goal is to make certain that our customers and our potential customers get treated specially. They get treated as if they get treated importantly. They get treated with respect when they walk into our locations.
And now, Bob, you know that almost all companies pay lip service to that concept.
Okay, that's true. So how are we different? So that's our why. That's our why. That's the core of what we do. That's our mission statement. How do we do that? And this is something that we think about every day. How do we do that? By raising expectations. Every time a customer walks into one of our locations, their expectations will be raised because their experience will have been better than it was the last time. Every one of our employees, every one of our team members at PLS knows that unless they continually improve themselves, they're failing. So we like to say when we're doing reviews, that yesterday's A is today's B, is tomorrow's C player. And so we're constantly pushing forward. Now that's the how. And then the key is the what. What do we do that? How do we do that? And PLS stands for People, Location, Service. And we have a continuing focus from the top down on our people, making certain they're being treated well, they're being trained well, they're being taught how to do their job, they're being incentivized to do their job. Location. All our locations are very well located. They're beautiful build-outs. They're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So that's the service. That's the service we provide. Our prices are less than our competition, usually about half the market price in our industry. Our money orders are free. Our people are well trained. And we're constantly improving ourselves. And that's been the key to our success.
Now, Bob, that cannot be a sustainable strategy.
I hope you're wrong.
I certainly hope, for the sake of all your customers and your company, that you continue to improve and continue to provide better services. But I'm trying to get at the real crux. What you're saying is great. It's wonderful to say to the customers, to employees, because that truly is your driving force as of now. But eventually you will realize that if you continue to raise expectations, that you got to plateau out at some point. So my question is, let's look at AIG, for example. And many other financial institutions, they always talk about customer experience and great quality of service and so on and so forth. But that alone, maybe perhaps in some instances, might be explaining the growth of a company. But again, you're not in direct competition to AIG, if I could say so. I don't know for sure, but I think you're not.
No, we're not in direct competition with AIG, but we are in direct competition with most of the retail banks. And so we have a vast array of competitors. And I understand what you're saying theoretically. The problem with your assumption is that you're assuming that that we could reach perfection. And I don't think anybody could reach perfection. The bar is constantly being raised. There's new technologies out there. There's constantly new means of improving ourselves. So I do, and we do believe it is sustainable, because I guess only God is perfect, so we can never achieve that. We just have to continue to improve ourselves. And as long as we do that, it is sustainable.
I agree with you to a large extent. Innovation is the key to succeed, and as long as you keep on innovating, there's always a scope for improving customer experience and customer expectation. So, you know, I understand theoretically that sounded wrong, but right. But I see your point. But I want to get into the little bit more depth of your arguments, so that people can learn and realize what exactly was they need to pull. Because what you're talking about is something that others should have been able to do. And it sounds like, you know, there was this void that you have filled, because obviously the kind of growth you have shown is clearly would be indicative of that existing void. So why is it that you could do? Why is it that that no other company could do it? Because there's obviously some kind of a flip side to that. That means possibly it's more expensive for you to do that. Your margins are lower, but what's going on? Why can you do that and not others?
Yeah, I really can't speak to every company in the world and every company in America, but the key is always knowing where your North Star is, always knowing what guides us. What guides us all the time is our why. We're always trying to make certain that our customers are given a wonderful experience. And how do we do that? With passion, with commitment. We have that passion. We have that commitment. Again, I can't tell you why another company can't model it. Maybe they spend too much time worrying about their expenses and too much time looking at the dollar signs and their P&L. So I don't know the answer. Our feeling is that as long as we keep doing that, the profits will follow.
And so this North Star that you said, that's a very apt example where you're saying basically that you're extremely focused on a very specific, I use the word cause, which means that you're not driven by goals and outcomes, but more like this is what we want to do, this is what we do, and the outcomes will follow. Is that what you're saying by North Star?
Absolutely. Absolutely. As long as we follow that North Star, as long as we guide our boat by following that North Star, we'll always stay on course. And I think a lot of retailers do a very good job of raising expectations and making certain their customers are treated specially. The difference is that most of the financial service providers don't see themselves as retailers. We see ourselves as retailers. We hire and we model ourselves, we hire from and model ourselves on retailers. While most of the financial service industry that's in the retail business, whether they be banks or check cashers or consumer lenders, they see themselves as financial service providers, so they don't focus on providing a wonderful retail experience.
So your customers, who are they?
Our customers, for the most part, are average Americans, are Americans who go from paycheck to paycheck, that what the politicians like to call working Americans. And our population is probably everybody but the upper class, everybody but the top 10% of wage earners.
So you thought that category of customers is being not provided the kind of service that others were being provided. Is that right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you work with Chase or Bank of America or Wells Fargo, they have their private bank group that helps the top 10% of their customers. And everybody else has to go to the retail windows. And the people that rise at a bank, the people that move up in the corporate ladder at a bank, are the loan officers. They're not the retail operations folks. So they never really became good at taking care of these customers. In our industry, same thing. In our, when I say our sub-industry, in the check cashing industry, the short-term lending industry, same thing. The industry just doesn't see itself as a retailer. And when you don't see yourself as a retailer, you're not worried about how your storefront looks, how your office looks, to make certain that you're treating customers well. If you walk into our competition, I use the word office, they call their store, they'll call it a branch, or they'll call it an office. We call it a store. We treat it like a store. We treat it like a retail experience. So the customer has that experience that the retailers have done such a good job at, and we really model that.
Now, This is a different perspective, as you've just pointed out, from a traditional financial institution's point of view of what they do. And, obviously a new perspective can open new doors. But when I look at from a customer's perspective, as an average user of financial services, I would think that there are more than two things that are of value to me. For example, there's certainly the experience and perhaps the cost of gaining that experience. So when I look at your financial institutions, you could model yourself and say, well, we provide lowest margin services or higher margin services. What is your take on that? How does it compare to, do the customers have a sense of what is the cost of financial services?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And we make certain that we're always below market. Absolutely. I believe people always know what they're paying for something, especially if they've worked very hard for that money. They keep track of it.
So fundamentally, you're saying the reason for your success is a new view of what your business is. In a sense, not necessarily new to the world, but at least a different view of what your business is compared to your competition.
Yes, it's a different perspective. It's a retailer's perspective. So we looked at some of the great retailers in America, and we took a piece from here and a piece from there, and we put that forward. We modeled that and grew upon that. So when you say it's a different perspective, absolutely. It's a retailer's perspective on financial services, as opposed to the traditional financial services perspective.
Now, Bob, what is your background that allowed you to come in here with a different perspective?
Well, I grew up in the check cashing industry. My father has a company that competes with us. So I grew up working in check cashing stores, so I certainly knew the industry. I went away to school, ended up in law school, practiced law for a small period of time, realized I wasn't very good at it, and really missed this industry. So my brother and I got together and said, what can we do to be a game changer? What can we do to make this better? And we came up with this model, and as you noted, it built on itself. We created the system, and the system runs.